Hey everybody, it's Preston here from Bull City Reader and welcome to this week's video. As you can tell from the description below, I'm continuing what we started last week, and that is having GoodReads rank my TBR. Last week we did the top 5 indie books that are on my TBR. I'll put the little thingy on whatever side it's supposed to pop up on, so you can check out that video if you haven't seen it and you would like to go watch it. I'll also put a link down in the description below. As I said in the last video, this series was inspired by Josh over at Beards and Books. I'll link his channel here, also down in the description, so you can check him out. Today we're going to be doing the 5 indie books that are ranked lowest on my TBR list. Again, we're doing the I guess top 5, if you want to call it the top 5. And we're going to be going from 5 to 1, 5 being the highest rated of them to 1 being the lowest rated of them. I did notice as I was looking at my GoodReads list, there is a difference in rankings on GoodReads and Amazon. So just, you know, food for thought. I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, let's just hop right on into this list.
Book number 5.
So the 5th book on this list is going to be a book that I'm actually excited to read. I got it at a bad time in my life when we had some stuff going on and reading just didn't seem important at the time. So the book is called Full Dive by T.M. Rain. Full Dive by T.M. Rain has 24 ratings and is averaging 3.67. I was excited when the author reached out to me about this book when I had the blog and podcast going. Granted, it was towards the end of that run. And I'm sorry the book's going to be hard to see because of the light in the room. It's a light cover, so it's not going to show up very well in the video. But anyway, I was excited when the author reached out to me about this book because it kind of sounded like almost like it was influenced by Ready Player One, and Ready Player One is one of my top 5 books of all time. I need to go back and read it. It's been a few years, but when I read it, I know it's one of my top 5 books. So I was excited when I got this book, when the author reached out to me. The book sounded interesting, so I am a little surprised at the ratings, it being where it is, 3.67. stars out of 24 ratings. I realized in the last video that when I tried to just summarize the synopsis of the video that it probably didn't come off the best. So in this video I'm going to read the synopsis of the book off of each one. Sorry, let me know in the comments, do you like it when I summarize the synopsis, or do you like it when I read what the author created as a synopsis? So anyway, here's the synopsis for Full Dive by T.M. Rain. In the virtual city of Atlantis, anything is possible. Floating islands dot the sky, portals provide instant travel, and people are free to be whatever they'd like, from a supermodel to a 3-legged cat in a spacesuit. But for Will, a failing dance club designer, Atlantis isn't all it's cracked up to be. Desperate for cash and an escape from routine, he volunteers to test the next hot thing, a fully immersive simulation video game. But what's with the health disclaimers and liability waivers? And why is the sim so painful? Something is wrong. From a monster-infested forest to the seedy black alleys of Atlantis, Will is suddenly swept up in a conflict that could determine the future of virtual reality. Lives are at stake. The corporation behind the sim is in denial. And as Will races to discover the truth of what's happening, he's finally forced to come to terms with the virtual world he's always hated. So like I said, I thought the book sounded interesting. I am going to read it. It is on my TBR. I might move it up a little bit actually. But that is Full Dive by T.M. Rain.
Number 4.
So book number 4 on the list is by an author named Terry Maggert, who I became friends with over my time. And I've met him several times. He's a great guy. He's a great author. And he's just fun to meet. So if you ever get the chance to meet Terry Maggert, he does travel around and do book conventions and stuff. Highly recommend you check him out. Tell him I sent you or whatever. But anyway, so book number 4 on the list is The Forest Bull. It's book 1 in the Fearless series. Let me get that cover in here. So The Forest Bull has 186 ratings, averaging 3.65 on GoodReads. I was a little surprised by this. Just because, like I said, I've read some of his stuff and I really like it. I haven't read this series yet, but the covers for this series are just beautiful. I have the rest of the series signed by him up on my shelf. Let me just tell you what it's about. Again, I'm going to read the synopsis. 3 lovers, 2 immortals, 1 mystery. When Ring Hartigan isn't making sandwiches for and with his 2 partners, Wally and Risa, he's got a busy schedule, doing the dirty work of sending immortals to the ever after. Wally and Risa provide linguistics, logistics, and finding the right place for him and his knife. A reclusive baron from the time-lost forest of Europe asks for their help, find a stolen collection of jewelry, and find the thief, his daughter Elizabeth, an immortal with purest evil who wants nothing less than to control hell itself. With the help of a 2,400-year-old succubus hooker named Delphine, they might just live long enough to discover what is evil, who is human, and exactly who wants to reign in hell. So Terry Maggert, the Forest Bull. I did interview Terry on my podcast. I'll do the little thingy up here and also a description down below. It's one of my favorite interviews I did. He's always fun to talk to. There's always laughing involved. Check out Terry Maggert, the Forest Bull, or really anything that Terry's written.
Number 3.
So again, number 3 is a book that kind of surprised me because the book actually won an award. According to online, it was the winner of the 2015 E-Lit Book Awards Gold Medal for Literary Fiction. And this is another author I've interviewed on my podcast.
Thingy here, links down below.
I interviewed him on my podcast. It was my second podcast interview, so it's going to be a little awkward. We did not talk about this specific book. He did mention it, but we didn't talk about it. We were talking about his newest project. But anyway, book number 3 is called Shadows Burned In by Chris Pourteau. Shadows Burned In by Chris Pourteau has 67 ratings, getting a 3.6 on GoodReads. And the synopsis for the book is: David Jackson leaves a successful law practice in the big city to return to the hometown he fled long ago. At its center stands old Susie's house, a grand house, once the elegant jewel of a bygone era. Now abandoned, the house stands decaying, simmering in the town's tortured past. David thought he'd burned his childhood nightmares along with his father in the town cemetery under 6 feet of dirt and 30 years of grief. But they're not finished with him just yet. His wife and daughter find themselves in real danger from the unquiet phantoms of David's past. David Jackson's childhood might just hold the key to what haunts old Susie's house and his family's salvation. So that is Shadows Burned In. I have read some stories by Chris Pourteau and I really did enjoy them. So this is another one I haven't read yet. I want to read. That's why it's on my TBR. So Shadows Burned In by Chris Pourteau.
Book number 2.
So number 2 on the lowest rated books on my GoodReads TBR. Again, this one actually kind of surprised me some. The book is Legacy Code by Autumn Kalquist. Sorry, I probably said your name wrong. So Legacy Code has 1,757 ratings on GoodReads and is averaging a 3.39 stars. I believe it's got higher ratings on Amazon, like I mentioned earlier. So, like I said, I was kind of surprised to see this near the bottom of my TBR with rankings. But the synopsis for Legacy Code says, the last humans fled a dying Earth 300 years ago, but there was something they couldn't leave behind, the Legacy Code. Every colonist in the fleet carries mangled genes that damage the unborn, and half of all pregnancies must be terminated. The day Era Cornith is supposed to find out if her baby has the defect, her ship suffers a hull breach, and it may not have been an accident. As the investigation unfolds, Era begins to question everything she's been taught about the fleet, their search for a new Earth, and the defect. But the answers she seeks were never meant to be found. This one, like I said, I want to read it. It's on my TBR. It sounds really good, but on GoodReads it just doesn't have the ratings. So Legacy Code by Autumn Kalquist.
Book number 1.
So the final book in this list, the one book that has the lowest ratings on my GoodReads TBR, again is another book that I'm a little surprised at the ratings. I guess I'm surprised by all these. And I guess there's a lesson to be learned from this, and I'll get to it in a minute. The number one book, the lowest rated book on my GoodReads TBR is the Dragon Badge by Scott Moon. Make sure I can get that in there without a glare. So Dragon Badge by Scott Moon has 103 ratings, averaging a 3.19 on GoodReads. I'm kind of surprised, like I said, by that. The book to me sounds real interesting. I interviewed Scott Moon on the podcast when I had it. You know, linky thingies up here, description down below. I'm trying to think if we talked about this book the most or not. I can't remember. I think we did talk about this book or the series. Let me just read you the synopsis real quick. For a cop, there are many ways to die, but Michael Prim never imagined sorcerers and demons were among them. He knows he's a freak destined to remain an outsider no matter how hard he works his beat. It's not just his purple eyes and intense need for justice that separate him from his peers, friends, and loved ones. Destiny stalks him like prey, and his father left him a legacy no man can face alone. When a soul-stealing sorcerer learns to harness the power of lost souls, demons and hellbounds are unleashed on the neon streets of Blue Point. The men and women of the BPPD face a new kind of foe, and to do so, they will need a new kind of cop, the son of a dragon slayer. Again, this is another book that really interests me. For those that don't know, Scott Moon is actually a police officer, so he's able to really bring the police side of his stories to life because he is a police officer. So that's why I was a little surprised that it's ranked where it is on my TBR. So Scott Moon, Dragon Badge. Again, I'll throw a link to all the books in the description down below. So as I mentioned a second ago, I said there is a lesson to be learned from seeing the rankings on GoodReads versus Amazon. I did not give you Amazon reviews for any of the ratings for any of these books or books that were on the last video. And for me, the lesson is book readers use Amazon, but they also use GoodReads to read reviews for their books. So if you're going to review a book on Amazon, just take the extra 30 seconds to minute it would take you to just copy and paste your review from Amazon to GoodReads, or GoodReads to Amazon if you review on GoodReads but don't review on Amazon. Because authors do need reviews in order to help get their books out there. I know they kind of push Amazon a little bit more because of algorithms, and they can be featured for, other people bought this book. But just take the time to make sure you review in both places, because like I said, people use both as a resource. So anyway, guys, end of my lecture, getting off my box. And so next, we're going to be diving into the published authors for the books that the published authors on my TBR list. So let me down below, would you like me to start with my lowest rated published authors on my GoodReads TBR? Or do you want me to start with the higher ranked ones like I did when I did the indie books? Let me know down in the comments below. If you've read any of these books and you think they deserve higher ratings, go review them, but also comment below and let me know below, have you read any of these 5 books and what did you think of them? So anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in this video. Until next time, keep reading, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
These are my friends, these are my friends, I love them, I love them. These are my friends, these are my friends, I love them, I love them.